Welcome to the Audible series, Joel Blazer, author, Letters from Marion. Copyright 2015 by Joel Blazer, published by Big House Publishing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the author. ISBN number 978-0-986-4054-0-2, LCCN number 2015-907522. Letters from Marion, Joel Blazer, Big House Publishing. We're going to start within the beginning. The impetus for writing this book was the extreme nature of the federal crack law riots on October 18th, 19th, 1995, in which 13 federal prisons near simultaneously rioted over the federal crack law not being changed and the wicked nature of the federal drug laws themselves. I witnessed and was part of the federal prison riot in Talladega, Alabama, the first one to riot, which was spurred by changes in these seemingly racial drug law interpretations. This book is the eyewitness account of my day-to-day life, both inside and outside federal prison. I traveled the world with the Grateful Dead selling LSD, seeing them 101 times, spanning 5 different countries from 1984 to 1992. In 1992, at 23 years of age, I was sentenced for federal LSD violations as the first-time nonviolent offender to 151 months of incarceration after losing my federal jury trial. Each chapter of this book opens with letters written to a family member, most of which I wrote to my mother, Rosemary, or brother Bradley during my stay at United States Penitentiary, Marion, October 1995 arrival. USP Marion was the last and longest stop of the 6 federal prisons I did time at during my only ever incarceration. I was housed among wickedly sophisticated and predacious criminals such as John Gotti, Bruce Pierce, James Doc Holliday, and Big Mac Michael McElhinney. Each original letter and most of the accompanying envelopes are photocopied into this book. My family saved all of the letters and most of the envelopes that I sent them from prison. Only a handful appears in the following pages. I went to prison as a smooth-skinned, non-violent Grateful Dead following first-time offender. My crime had been consensual, victimless, as opposed to a non-consensual crime like murder, rape, armed robbery. Yet I ended up in Marion. A man in a lower security prison could stab a prison guard and not get sent to Marion. A man could commit diabolical bank robberies or murder and not get sent to Marion. Those who ended up in Marion were to be feared and respected. It was designed for the worst of the worst. Marion opened in 1962 as the highest level USP ever built within the U.S. federal prison system, level 5.5. When Alcatraz closed at the end of 1962, all of Alcatraz's worst convicts were sent to Marion. Built into a valley, USP Marion is a completely self-contained prison, fenced in by 3 walls of Constantine razor wire. Movement on the yard was heavily controlled and escape near impossible, given the 6 gun towers that were manned 24 hours a day, plus a roving truck patrol that circled the prison on a special track. Adjacent to the prison was a picturesque mini subdivision of ranch-style homes which housed some of the prison staff. Marion consisted of 8 units, A through H, and the cells were designed to hold only 1 prisoner each. The first 6 units were reserved for general population. G unit was for mentally disturbed criminals or those in protective custody. Finally, H unit, the first of its kind, was an ultra-maximum security unit deep in the penitentiary itself. Prisoners in H unit were only allowed out of their cells 1 hour per day. Food was brought to them via cart and tray. In order to leave their cell, they first had to be handcuffed behind the back and then shackled at the ankles with leg irons connected by a short chain. This protocol was to be followed every time. even if they were leaving their cell for a shower or recreation. Furthermore, H Unit prisoners were mandated to be accompanied by 2 to 3 guards when out of their cell. October 22nd, 1983, the face of Marion changed forever and for the worse. On that fateful day, 2 prison guards were simultaneously murdered in 2 separate incidents on either side of H Unit. Merle E. Klutz and Robert Hoffman were killed at the hands of a member and associate of the Aryan Brotherhood. Thomas Silverstein and Clayton Fontaine allegedly both guards were known for routinely abusing and taunting convicts on the H Unit range. As the court record shows, Silverstein broke away from the guards after a shower while still shackled and handcuffed, then stuck his hands through the slot of a fellow prisoner's barred cell door. His comrade, who had a homemade handcuff key, quickly removed Silverstein's handcuffs and handed him a sharp homemade knife, or shank. Silverstein went right for Klutz and repeatedly stabbed him to death. At almost the exact same time, far away on the other side of H Unit, in similar form and fashion, Clayton Fontaine, an associate of the Aryan Brotherhood, administered the very same fate to prison guard Hoffman. This was not Silverstein's first in-prison murder. 18 months prior to this incident, Silverstein had taken the life of Cadillac Smith in the same manner in the very same unit. Excuse me. Smith was the head of the DC Blacks, a prison gang that started in Washington, D.C. and spread throughout the country's prisons. Silverstein was given a life sentence for the murder of Smith. Shortly after the 2 murders in H Unit, the entire prison became designated a federal supermaximum lockdown penitentiary, level 6, the first ever in the United States. At that point, each prisoner, not just those in H Unit, was put on 23-hour lockdown status and allowed only 2 15-minute phone calls per month. There were many other extreme restrictions, and now became known as the Marion model, and all other state or private supermax prisons would be based on this design. USP Marion stayed this way for the next 23 years. In the ensuing lockdown, all the prisoners were brutally beaten by staff in retaliation for the 2 murdered guards. President Reagan even issued awards to the Marion prison staff for reestablishing control and locking the prisons down. Marion's notorious reputation only grew larger and more ominous. In 2006, 23 years after becoming the nation's first true supermax, USP Marion was redesignated a medium security prison and normal yard movement was established. Florence, Colorado's ADX became the new federal supermaximum, though it was astoundingly safer than Marion due to the fact that inmates are not ever mixed with one another, and all convicts have their very own separated recreation yards. 90% of this book is my experiences in federal prison as a first-time nonviolent offender. The other 10% is the rest of my life, childhood, family, after release, subjects like prison, poker, politics, and the pop in the housing bubble as it relates to my journey. Also chronicled are the 101 Grateful Dead shows I saw spanning 5 countries. This is a true story. The events portrayed are based on my eyewitness testimony and official court records. Most of the names have not been changed. Hillary Martin of Boulder, Colorado was very instrumental with helping me come up with the entire outline for Letters from Marion, and without her brilliance, this book may have never come about. Thank you, Hillary. And